Some good news, at least a little good news, but more bad news with regard to Laura. Marco weakening and should be just a breeze and maybe some tropical squalls here locally going into Tuesday especially. And then 36 hours or less later, we're going to be threatened potentially with a major hurricane. Right now it's going to be a Category 2 is the forecast, but there is a potential for a major hurricane coming up with Laura. So let's take a look at what we have going on. We have Marco in the Gulf of Mexico. Laura still looking pretty impressive considering it's right on the Cuban coastline. It dealt with the mountainous terrain of Hispaniola. Now we'll be skirting around and the southern flank of Cuba, and there's actually some water to work with here. So it depends on what we're going to see down the line on how well developed the system or not it is as it gets to the western tip of Cuba and then emerges in the Gulf of Mexico. Hopefully a weak system as it gets into the Gulf, but as we all know, and I said this in the Facebook Live earlier this evening, we've seen tropical depressions go from depressions to major hurricanes coming through this part of the Gulf of Mexico, either the tip of the Yucatan or southeastern portions of the Gulf of Mexico, making landfall as major storms, and this one could be another one of those as well. So Marco weakening down to a tropical storm just a bit this evening. That is certainly good news as we continue to see a lot of upper level wind shear at lower levels. The lower level circulation is heading to the northwest, but you can see how the thunderstorms are getting blown away from the center of the storm. So here we have the center of the tropical storm, and all the convection is on the northern and most prominently in the northeastern quadrant of that tropical storm. 70-mile-per-hour winds now moving to the north-northwest at 12. It approaches and makes landfall somewhere over coastal Louisiana as we head into tomorrow evening. I don't think we feel much effects from the system until we get closer to daybreak on Tuesday. St. Mary Parish maybe a little bit sooner, and then the forecast track pretty much paralleling the coastal parishes and just offshore. So we are going to get southerly winds, so the tides are going to be coming up. But notice a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm by Iberia, St. Mary Parish, and then weakening down to a depression as it moves into western portions of Acadiana. We'll talk more about the potential impacts in just a bit. Then we have Laura with 65-mile-per-hour winds, so that's a little bit stronger. Pressure at 1,000 millibars, and this is expected to become a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll have the opportunity to get at least to a Category 2, and the Hurricane Center keeping the door open for a possibility of a major hurricane, Category 3. That's 111 miles an hour or better. And look at this forecast track. We started out at Holly Beach this morning at 10 a.m. At 4 p.m. we were at Cameron. Now the shift over toward Vermilion Parish, and we think it might shift again. It could go east, farther east or west, but we are in the zone for getting smacked with this hurricane if this forecast verifies, and that means hurricane force winds, heavy flooding rain, and the possibility of a big storm surge along the coast. So still tropical storm warnings for Marco. Hurricane watches still in effect from Vermilion Parish eastward. A hurricane warning just in case Marco acts up, but we don't think that is going to happen over southeast Louisiana. And as for tides, coming up 4 to 6 feet with Marco, about 2 to 4 feet coastal portions of Acadiana. Changes possible with that Marco track depending on its intensity going into Tuesday, and a much higher surge will be likely with Laura, perhaps on par with Hurricanes Rita and Ike, maybe worse in some spots than that. So that's a bad news situation for us. So here we go with the latest NAM model. I haven't seen this. This came in during commercial break, kind of indicating the heaviest rains over eastern Louisiana, and then kind of a benign system moving through Acadiana going into Tuesday, but we could see showers and storms flaring up into Tuesday afternoon. And there's Laura rearing its ugly head as we get into the latter part of that forecast period. So the GFS model actually outperforming the European model. Euro, by the way, has Laura going into southeast Louisiana as a weaker system, and the GFS farther to the west into the upper Texas coast. But again, notice there's not much Marco showing up here. Circulation, some tropical squalls going into Tuesday. Not much weather going on tomorrow. Tomorrow, a pretty nice day, maybe a few showers late in the day, but not a whole lot in the way of weather. Then we get into Wednesday, and we'll be watching Laura. And again, this is not the official forecast track. The forecast track now is farther to the east, but we're going to see a big surge along the coast and the possibility of heavy rainfall across all of Acadiana, based on the latest forecast track. So we'll show you some of the tropical estimates. This is the GFS model indicating most of Marco's rains up to maybe 8 inches possible over southeast Louisiana through Tuesday evening. Not much here locally for Acadiana. And then we see Laura entering the equation. Remember, the GFS farther to the west, so this heavy rain axis will shift farther to the east, so easily 9, 10, 12 inches of rain or up to 15 in spots, certainly with a hurricane, even if it's moving along at a good clip. So that means low-lying areas will be subject to flooding and a short notice on top of the high winds as well. Latest RPM model not showing a whole lot in the way of rainfall. A few spots that may catch an inch or two of rain, but again, notice southeast Louisiana and over toward coastal Mississippi, where the thunderstorms are going to be blowing away from the center of Marco. That heavy rainfall will be farther to the east. And again, here's the radius of tropical storm force winds as we go into tomorrow. And again, that radius of strong winds dissipates as early as Tuesday morning. So we're going to get a breeze, but not much. Here's the GFS model indicating Marco's winds, and then the winds coming in associated with Hurricane Laura. They're going to be quite intense, poised just offshore as we get into Wednesday. So what can we expect with Marco? We're all in yellow or marginal or slight risk of inch rainfall. I'm going to repost this on my Facebook page and on the web shortly. But look at Wednesday. Devastating storm surge, 8 to 14 feet. Flooding rains possible, 50 to 70 mile per hour winds. Gusts over 100 possible, even in Lafayette, which we have never seen recorded. A wind gust higher than 78 in Lafayette in any of the big storms we've seen going back to Hurricane Audrey. So keep that in mind. Tomorrow, workable day. Tropical storm warning going into tomorrow evening. Temperatures top out in the lower 90s. And then as we get into Tuesday, pretty good rain chances with Marco. And then we'll be dealing with Laura going into late Wednesday into Thursday. High winds, surge, and heavy flooding rain threat. Back to normal, we hope, by the weekend. That's it for weather. We'll be right back right after this.